crazy dream about some folks who love this country, who all began to dream the same dream. And when the morning came, there arose across this nation people thinking one and the same. And they woke to find their freedom and all their liberties had gradually been taken away. And when they realized the danger to their posterity, I heard those patriotic people say, we want this country back. We ain't just joking, Jack. We want our liberty and our dignity and our freedoms and our rights restored. We want this country back. She's been driven way off track. We're wide awake and we're madder than hell now, and we ain't gonna take it anymore. No, we're not gonna take it anymore. Remember golden days when the stars and stripes forever symbolized her glorious name, America. But now it's all been changed, and when we gaze upon her glory, it's hard to fight back feelings of shame. Working up with lying politicians and greedy corporations who have sold us out time and again. And we're sick and tired of sending our soldiers off to wars that we were never meant to win. We want this country back. We ain't just joking, Jack. We want our liberty and our dignity and our freedoms and our rights restored. We want this country back. She's been driven way off track. We're wide awake and we're madder than hell now, and we ain't gonna take it anymore. No, we're not gonna take it anymore. Now we know our cause is right and our victory's on the way, and we won't give up the fight till we hear 200 million say, we want this country back. We ain't just joking, Jack. We want our liberty.
Good afternoon, folks, and this is Maggie Rose, and this is the new Concord Hour, being brought to you proudly by the Microeffect Radio Broadcasting Network. And we want to thank all of our sponsors out there, including Stryker, for all they do to try to keep this up on air. I'm going to go ahead and put out again that I'm asking you all, please, any of you out there that can possibly dip into your pocket and donate some money to the Microeffect to try to keep this on the air. I know there's been kind of a fundraiser going on right now at the Microeffect. Joe McNeil has put that up. Shelby has been giving us information on that. And if you go to the website here, which you, if you're listening to this show, you can see what the fundraiser is all about and what we need to do to try to keep the Microeffect growing. Now, folks, this is a labor of love put on by Joe McNeil and Shelby and her mother, Kelly, and everybody else in the family. They've made a lot of sacrifices with their family and time and money in order to be able to do this. It takes a lot of time to keep this going. I know that Shelby is roughly around 16 years old, and she's basically been in training with this since she was at least 11 that I know of. And she gets up very early in the morning to make sure that she can get Mark Corky and the Intel report up and running, having to drink a cup of coffee to keep herself going and awake, and she runs throughout, most of the day until they start putting up the repeat radio programming that's been pre-recorded. That usually happens after my show, which concludes at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So, for those of you out there that sit back and you're listening, I just want you to know that for a lot of the show hosts out there, it takes time to come up on air, whether we do it at 2-hour stints or 1-hour stints or 2 or 3 days a week or only 1 day a week. There's research that has to go into. We have to make sure that we're not just watching the TV news and listening to the controlled radio media, but that we're also reading newspapers and we're watching what's going on YouTube, and we're trying to find the truth which lies somewhere therein. So I just would like you all to know just the time and the effort, the sacrifice that does come up to be bringing up any of the Truth Radio. And this goes for all of the talk show hosts out there across the nation, especially with the alternative media. I would like to also ask you all to please bear with me. We're living in an area where there's just high pollen count here, so I'm having troubles from time to time with my breathing and my allergies, and so please just bear with me. It usually makes my voice very deep, and sometimes I do a little bit of coughing, and I try to mic the phone when that happens, but that's not always possible, so just please bear with me on that. And I want to thank you all. There's so many of you out there who have been supporting the microeffect and supporting the actions that I have been doing. As you all know, I've kind of put my neck out in the line a few times, and I won't go into a lot of details, but a bunch of us had the displeasure yesterday. We were invited up into Oregon. In southern Oregon, they have the Cow Creek Indian Nation there at their casino. They have a free luncheon for all veterans and their families every year. And they had quite a few wonderful guest speakers, some of them from the Indian Bureau of Affairs. Many of them are people that are supporting veterans in California, Washington and Oregon, Nevada, Arizona, and Texas. They were there. And so I'm going to give you the bad and the ugly first. One of the special guest hosts that got up to talk was none other than Governor Kate Brown of Oregon. Now, I myself, there's no way, after what she did or helped to do to my friend Lavoie, somebody that we all came to know and dearly love, before he passed on and even after he passed on, when we go back and look at his videos. And she was the one that was sending emails to Valerie Garrett there in the White House, encouraging and them writing back and forth to each other that Obama and Hillary wanted to make sure that nobody from the Bundy civil disobedience peaceful standoff, is what I call it, that none of them would make it to the neighboring county, which was John Day. Now, there at John Day, if you all remember, I will repeat again that there was a big meeting that was going to be held. It was organized by some of the people in John Day. The sheriff was going to be there, who was a constitutional sheriff. Also, who was going to be there was his district attorney of that county, and at least 300, if not more, ranchers and farmers and other people that wanted to hear about what was really going on in Harney County, what they could do to make sure that the land grab with the BLM and Hillary Clinton and all the rest would not take place in their county, how they could take back their county before it happened, how they could control their own county, how they could be the ones to decide the destiny of their county. And so there was a big meeting going to be at the Senior Citizen Center there in John Day, and Lavoie Finnegan and the Bundys, Ammon Bundy, Ryan Payne, Shauna Cox, were en route there to talk about these committees of safety that we've had since the Revolutionary War. They were also going to talk about grand juries and the people's grand jury that have been formed privately there in Harney County to try to hold our officials accountable. So, yes, Valerie, thank you. I do have an air cleaner. I bought it. It's a purifier. I'm setting it up, in fact, right after the show is over. So thank you for your thoughts on that. So anyway, they were on their way there. And Hillary Clinton, as you know, her foundation is very corrupt. They've been taking money from people in countries like Saudi Arabia and Kuwait that do not believe in women's rights. They will stone to death homosexuals. They will stone to death women that have been raped. I don't care if you're a 14-year-old girl that was raped by your uncle or a 20-year-old woman that was raped by your brother-in-law. If they find out that you have been raped, you usually get tortured your hands chopped off, or you basically get stoned to death. There's the death penalty. And so here's Hillary knowing this, knowing about this human rights abuses that are taking place across the globe. She has actually been getting millions of dollars from all of these countries while she's stating that she believes as a Democrat in gay rights and women's rights. She's a hypocrite, folks. She's got so much blood on her hands, it's not even funny. So anyway, our group, The Anonymous, managed to intercept the emails going back and forth between Governor Brown's office and the White House, specifically Valerie Garrett, who is Obama's right hand when he's out going on vacations and playing golf. She's the one that basically runs the White House, and everybody knows that. And they said that under no circumstances should that group of people be allowed to get it into John Day County. In fact, originally they were going to try to block them in John Day and realized that they were not going to get the support of the sheriff with that, right? That was obvious. So they had to block them shortly after leaving Burns, after getting on Highway 395, which is a very isolated strip of highway. It was a 2-hour drive from the town of Burns to where they were going to be meeting in John Day. And as you know, it was not a traffic stop. It was an ambush. I don't care what the sheriff's department, the Shute Sheriff's Department, the Oregon State Police, or even the mercenaries themselves that were sent to Oregon by the Obama administration. We know darn well what it was. It was outright murder. They believed that the Bundys were the snake and that the head of the snake was Lavoie, and he was a rancher himself that was fighting for rights in Arizona, standing for the Constitution, loudly claiming that he would not be afraid to die for the Constitution. And so they thought, okay, well, we'll take you up on it. Let us help you along. And they outright murdered him, folks. Now, I did call Jeanette, and I did tell her what happened yesterday. And a couple of you that were listening to the show, one of the other talk shows this morning, in the chat room, you saw specifically what it was that took place. And I'm not sorry. I know that Governor Brown is a monster, maybe not at the same degree that Hillary is, but she's a monster nevertheless. And I was just very, very glad when she left, literally inhaled her dinner and took off. I'm just going to leave it at that, folks, okay? But I will tell you the good news is that we had a wonderful entertainment yesterday, and one of them was Amy Clausen. You all know her as the country singer. She is an outstanding young woman. She and I got to talk for a while afterwards and become friends, and she actually has a business that she's starting up here in Oregon, and it's going to be like a family restaurant, and so that's been taking up an awful lot of her time. She's originally from Arkansas. She's played in Nashville. She's played all around the world. She's received awards overseas, and she's very unapologetically saying, I am a constitutionalist, I am a Republican, I am a conservative, and I am proud of it. So her songs are full of love for this country, love for the American people, and I was just very grateful that I was able to meet with her and become friends with her yesterday, and even exchange phone numbers. So I'm hoping one of these days I can bring Emily Clausen up on the show, because I'd like her to talk a little bit about her personal life before she became Emily Clausen. I think that it's very, very heartwarming sometimes to hear the roots of where people came from before they end up where they are now. And to know that she supports veterans, she comes from a military family background, means that she understands. She gets what's happening in this country. So, with that said in mind, I would like to thank Ari in the chat room. For those of you who have never been in the chat room, what you do is you go to where you're listening to us right now here on the Micro Effect, and later on or at the break, you can go ahead and register in the chat room with your non-deplume or a made-up name or whatever, and then that way you can follow along with some of the people that are in the chat room right now. And if you don't want to call into the show and ask me questions or bring up any suggestions, then what you can do is you can write those questions here in the chat room, And I'm flipping back and forth between the chat room and also Shelby in case there's information she needs to give me. So I would like to thank now Bonnie, who on Tuesdays and Thursdays was recording this show for me and able to put up parts 1 through part 5, where David Zunica came up with his presentation on America Again. So there on YouTube, if you missed any of those shows, you can listen to those shows, parts 1 through 5, of America, and where we're also on YouTube advertising the Micro Effect. And I want to thank Bonnie again for her doing that. That's a dedication of love, and it's time consuming, and that's her way of giving back as well to the Micro Effect as well as to the New Concord Hour. So I want to thank you, Bonnie. Love you much, gal. Thank you for the phone conversations we've had. They've been very enlightening and given me food for thought. Folks, I also want to welcome into the chat room Hugh 3, Joe McNeil, Mullins Piper, Pet Monkey, my friend Theocrat, and Valerie. Valerie, again, I want to thank you and all for all your good wishes for my husband. Yes, he ended up having a relapse and ended up back in the hospital, and he's been in the hospital now probably about 4 days, so that makes just under 2 weeks that he's spent in the hospital, and the doctors are working with him. And no, it's not Emily, it is Amy Clausen. You can find her if you Google her on the internet. She's a brunette, kind of slim and petite. And yes, my dad did say she was hot. You're right, Pet Monkey. It was funny. My dad was so embarrassed when she got done singing her last song. And the whole program was over. My dad walked up to her, and he said, he says, I couldn't make up my mind. He says, which I loved. He says, I love looking at you, or I love listening to your song. And Amy said, well, did you like both? And he said, oh, yes. Now, my dad's 87 years old, so I can see that he still appreciates a woman who's attractive in the heart and the mind and the personality, as well as being able to knock out some really beautiful singing. So, as you folks know, music many times for a lot of people is their main art and way of expressing themselves. And music many times is the window to the soul. It's not just your eyes, it's your music. Many times you can reach people through music that you can't any other way. So I just want to let you all know thank you for your good wishes. For my husband, he also sends on his love and good wishes. And he wants you all to know that it's not over yet, folks. We might have gotten some really bad news today that the FBI is not recommending criminal charges against Clinton. To me, that is treasonous. Obviously he's playing along to get along. So when this FBI director, James Comey, C-O-M-E-Y, states that he does not believe that there should be actions taken against her, that he believes there are hostile actors that gained access to Clinton's account. Give me a break. Hostile actors, A-C-T-O-R-S, gained access to Clinton's personal email account? I mean, it's like they're just the air folks, trying to come up with excuses not to indict her. She has pulled so much crap over the years. She's got so much blood on her hands. And they're now stating that she's clean, that she's innocent. And, of course, folks, if you and I had done a third of what this woman has done, if we had ignored a third of the things that she's ignored, that cost people their lives, we would be sitting in prison right now. Why is it that these rich, I have a word for it, starts with a B and ends with an S, these rich bees, why they can sit there and continuously get away with the same stuff over and over and over again? Where are the American people in this? Why are people hiding? I don't understand it. Why are you not out in force and saying we are not going to take it anymore? I thought it was going to happen when LaVoy was murdered in cold blood, when he was shot at least 3 times in the back, once going through his back into his heart. But oh no, what did many of our so-called patriot groups do? They went back home. In fact, some of them knew that there was a possible ambush coming up, and they took off for home because, we have to go home and check on our spouses and our children. Or, I had a meeting in Alabama that I've been wanting to go to for months. And even though I'm the head of this particular patriot group, I really had to go to that meeting, so I left prior to the day that he was shot and killed. Really? When you folks were saying that you didn't necessarily agree with what the Bundys were doing, you didn't agree with what they were doing or how they went about doing it, but you agreed with the message and that you were going to be there to make sure something like this did not happen. And you were given warning signals days before it happened that something big was coming down. And the most likely thing that would take place would be on their way to that meeting in the county of John Day. Now, you can't come back, folks of you that are in the Patriot movement, and I'm not going to name any one organization. You know the three of you in particular that I'm talking about. You can't say, but the Bundys and their people were driving back and forth the 30 miles from out in the desert, high desert, to town to pick up groceries and things, and the FBI was leaving them alone, and they were meeting with the FBI, and they were having, sit-down sessions with the FBI, and everybody was getting along. So, being that this was going on, we never thought anything was ever going to really happen. Really? I know personally that at least one individual, if not two, contacted some of you and let you know something was coming down within 4 to 8 hours. I know for a fact that the head and founder of one of those organizations was on the radio talking with someone, and they called Lavoie and warned him, and he said he would take it back to his people. That base alone, why did not one of you three main patriot groups there, YouTube, screaming and yelling about what you weren't going to let happen? Well, why did not any of you make sure that you had a group driving in front of Lavoie and a group of vehicles driving behind Lavoie? High school. And eating at the restaurant there, the Apple Peddler. And asking people to send more and more donations to your patriot organizations to help pay for your hotels and your meals while you were there. When you do stuff like that, do you think anybody is going to want to send in donations in the future? You're hurting everybody in the patriot movement because of your greed. You get up on YouTube and you sit there and you go on and on that you're a patriot and that you believe in this country and you believe in the Constitution. Because I know what it is, folks. While I'm on my soapbox here, I know what it is. What it is that the Bundys went there for this protest against what was happening to the Hammonds. And the Hammonds really didn't want anybody, I guess, to stick up for them and try to keep them from going back to jail. They were going to do it for whatever their personal reasons are. I respect. And according to the Bundy women, they told me their husbands never, ever hinted or suggested or had any plans about going out to the refuge. They would have told them. In fact, the other was the opposite was the truth. They told their wives, we will be home on Monday or Tuesday at the latest. We will be home Monday or Tuesday at the latest. Some of these men had 2 and 3 children. Some had 5 and 6 children. They were not intending to go out to the refuge. They were set up. Somebody, we now know it was the Fed, put this little idea in somebody's head while they were at the Safeway store having their peaceful about what happened to the Hammonds, and said, guess what, you guys? You can go out to the refuge. The keys are on the desk. The offices are all unlocked. The vehicles are all there. Nobody lives out there. Nobody's going to be doing anything on the property during the holiday weekend of the 1st of January. What a wonderful place to go out there. It's 30 miles away from everything. There's no way you could destroy property or have people saying that you're crossing on private property. What a wonderful place to have civil disobedience, to have a peaceful protest. And the poor Bundys, in some ways very naive and very well-meaning and very kind-hearted, they went out there. And then, unfortunately, people came out of the woodwork. The wannabe patriots. The people that are saying, come on, we want to start a revolution. We want a civil war. We want excuses people you don't want around you, folks. Those people that are trigger happy. So they went out there. They were set up. And you all know the rest of the story. We know how corrupt Steve Grasky is. We know how corrupt that sheriff is that was appointed by Steve Grasky, not elected by the people. Those people in Harney County are now becoming cowards. Many of them have become cowards. Not all of them. But many of them are like, oh, we're going to go along with the program. We're going to play along to get along. After everything that went on, they didn't take the ball and run with it. They didn't take the advantage that a man sacrificed his life so they could be free. Those people are not worth my time or my effort. I met a lot of good people in Harney County. Wonderful, wonderful people in Harney County. Ranchers and farmers and store clerks. And many of them are grief-stricken over what happened. But they're also afraid. They are afraid of the Steve Grasky. They are afraid of Sheriff Ward. Of what is going on in that county. Well, folks, the show, we're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to be going to a station break here in just a moment. I'm going to ask you all, please, again, to go on the front home page here on the Microeffect. You'll see the address there where you can donate or you can be part of the fundraiser. And I think they have a few gifts out there for people that do give $50 or $100 donations. Please help support the Microeffect, folks. Please help support the Microeffect, because if it wasn't for the Microeffect, I would not be able to be here on the show and bring the guests on that I did, like David Zinica. And had so much to offer to us. Another idea, another way to peacefully take back our country. Of course, it's going to take time, folks. And many of us are beginning to wonder if we really have very much time any longer. If Hillary gets into the office, we're absolutely doomed. There are no bones about it. I'd be willing to bet my next month's check on that. We already saw what happened in California. They're getting brazen and more brazen. They've decided, Jerry Brown, the governor down there, to pass a bill that you have to pay a $25 fee for a background check every time you want to buy ammo. And he's made it illegal to have the AR illegal in that state, which means if you're in California and you're listening to my voice right now, you have to get that AR out of California. You have to sell it or turn it in, give it away, or have it removed, or you can go to prison. Because you better believe they're going to be considering this a felony. So here we've got Obama right now with Hillary today, waving at everybody with 7 or 8 American flags behind them, and they're just beaming because the FBI has cleared Clinton. This is a sad day today, folks. It's definitely a sad day. We'll be right back, folks. This is Maggie Rose. This is the new Concord Hour being brought to you proudly by the Microeffect Radio Broadcasting Network, and Shelby's going to put up one of her favorite songs, folks. Folks, this is Maggie Rose. I have something here I'd like to play for some of you. I don't know if it's going to pass through and you're going to be able to hear it well, but I can certainly try. With that, folks, I would hope that many of you will think very, very close to your heart what that music signifies for you. For many of us in the military, it's what we call tap. We used to listen to it every night in our barracks when the sun went down and we were in bed. They play it many times when somebody has been buried, a veteran, especially in a national cemetery. And there are words that go to this, folks. Those words are, day is done, gone the sun, from the lakes, from the hills, from the sky. All is well, safely rest, God is nigh. Fading light dims the sight, and a star gems the sky, gleaming bright from afar, drawing near, falls the night. Folks, from afar, drawing near, falls the night. We have night falling on us right now, folks, and we need to shed the light on more of the American people, what's happening in this country. We need to wake up the masses, folks. So many of them have fallen asleep at the wheel. So many of them are living with what we call the normalcy bias. And we've had people on the show, the Bundys. We've had, Angie Bundy, the wife of Ryan Bundy. We've had Carol Bundy, the wife of Cliven. We've had David Zunica, who has given us a 5-part series on what is happening in this country. He's given us the history of many things that have happened, what people did to take back their country, what people can do now. Folks, what we need is for you to get 3 people. Can you get 3 people who are willing to listen to what's happening, to work with us? The rest of the taps have the words that goes, thanks and praise for our days. Neath the sun, neath the stars, neath the sky. As we go, this we know, God is nigh. Folks, whatever you believe in, whatever your spiritual beliefs there are, we need to have hope that we are not going to let the New World Order, we're not going to let the people like those who have been running the European Union, we're not going to let the cabal, the Council on Foreign Relations, we're not going to let people like Hillary and Obama control us any longer. We need to take back this country, folks. And if you don't vote, if you decide, oh my gosh, I'm having to vote again for the lesser of 2 or 3 evils, so I'm just not going to vote. Well then, folks, by not voting for Hillary, do you even understand that? Are you even able to have a concept of what not voting would mean? Everywhere I'm turning, I'm hearing people say, well, I'm just not going to vote this election. Oh, my gosh. Many of us can see a lot of problems with the person right now who's the Republican person to be chosen. I sometimes wonder how he really feels about many people in this country. But, folks, if you've gone back and read the history, do you know he was one of the people ever to be putting women on his staff and pushing women up into CEO positions? As much as at times he has sounded sexist and discriminatory against women, and he's been downright crass at times and nasty, doesn't have all the people skills that we would have liked while he was fighting hard to get to where he is. He's now beginning to temper himself. He's beginning to realize that he doesn't have to come out swinging. He doesn't have to come out swinging. There's more people for him than there are against him. And when we turn around and we see that the FBI Director Comey is saying there's no case that would support bringing criminal charges against Clinton, how do you think Trump is feeling about that right now? He realizes how broke this country is. And when I had the taps played a few minutes ago, Those taps were also played because the fact is that this country right now, we are in the night of our days. This is what I'd like you all to do, something very simple, okay? When you go, and not a lot of people write letters anymore, shame on you. You need to write letters to your children, your grandchildren, your family members, because it's those letters that 50 years, 100 years from now will be wrapped up with ribbon, and your granddaughter or your great-grandson or great-granddaughter will have those letters, and they'll have a little bit of a real history, what happened in your family and what was happening in this country. So please write letters. I'm asking you. And yes, I know, hard case, the electronic voting is rigged already. We know that. We're aware of that. But I'd like you to write letters to some of your family members. Live across state or across the country. And then go out and get the postage stamps that have the American flag on them. Can you all do that for me? I know I'm not asking a lot. This should not be that difficult. Write a letter to your children or your grandchildren about what your concerns are. Even if they live in the same town as you, sit down and write a letter and send it to them and ask them to keep that letter. And write other letters as time goes by and ask them to save the letters and never throw them away. And when you put that stamp in the right-hand top corner of your envelope, put the stamp upside down. If thousands of us would do this across the country, we're sending a message. That is the distress signal. Upside down American flag is the sign of distress. It's a 911. Would you all do that for me, please? I'm Maggie Rose. I'm asking this of you. And write to the station. And when you write to the station, let them know how much you appreciate what they're doing. Shelby and Joe and Kelly. And I don't know all the names of all her siblings, but the whole family has a hand in keeping the micro effect up and running. So the names of all Shelby's siblings, I thank you all. But send them a letter and a card saying thank you. And put that flag upside down in the top right-hand corner to let Joe know that you are listening to the micro effect. Even if you don't go in the chat room, even if they don't know, who you are, you don't have to put a return address. Now, I know there's at least 784 of you out there that are listening in on your laptop computers and your computer tower. I don't know how many of you are out there using the iPad, or how many of you out there are using your iPhone. I know that right now my spouse is in the hospital room, and he is listening to this radio show today on his iPhone. So, honey, I'm going to be there in less than an hour. I promise. I got to go feed the livestock and water the plants, and I'll be in town in just a little while, and I'll bring you a surprise. But in the meantime, folks, we don't know how many of you are out there listening on your iPads or your iPhones, but you also, I'm challenging you. Even though we can't gauge how many of you are listening to us, we can only gauge those on laptops and computer towers. The rest of you out there also. Please, 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 I'm almost on my knees begging you. Write a letter to your grandchildren, to your children. Write a letter at least once every couple of months. Let's get back to the olden days of where men and women kept diaries. Men and women kept diaries. Men wrote beautiful letters. They wrote poetry. And they were manly men. They were manly men. They really were. They weren't feminine at all. And they wrote poetry. And they wrote letters to their girlfriends, to their wives, to their male friends. Oh, yes, about the bees. Valerie's asking what about the bees. Yes, Valerie, I do have to go out there and check on my bees. I have another beehive that's going to be delivered later on this week. So I'm doing my part to try to bring up the bee population. But I'm not going to touch the honey till next spring, because I want to make sure that my bees have plenty of honey for them to eat throughout the winter, especially with the baby bees that they're going to be bringing along. And I also understand I have to go to a food co-op, and there's little food bars that you actually put in there during the winter as additional food to keep your bees up and running. So Yeah, so I've got right now, let's see, 3 horses, 2 of them American miniatures, one's an Arab, 6 goats, pygmy goats that eat my blackberry bushes that here where we live, they grow like weeds. I have about, 28 chickens, 4 roosters, couple dogs, 4 rescue cats, a rabbit, and right now I've got an incubator going, and it's got an automatic egg turner, and I'm going to see if sometime in the next week, it'll be the 21st day, and I'm going to see if I'm going to have some baby chickadees that will be hatching. So what I did is I took some of the eggs that I hoped had been fertilized by our 4 roosters, and we put them in the incubator, and I've been putting water in there to keep the humidity up and running and keep it at the temperature between 95 and 100. And I understand if I'm lucky, at least half those eggs will be hatching. So anyway, so I'm trying to do my little bit to try to be self-sufficient. I wanted to share with many of you out there, there's some very important books I would like you to go out and get a hold of. One of them is Give Us Liberty, Join the Revolution. It includes an activism toolkit. It's Give Us Liberty, a Tea Party manifesto. Again, Give Us Liberty. It's about lowering taxes, less government, more freedom. And it's a Tea Party manifesto. It's written by Dick Armey. That's A-R-M-E-Y. Dick, D-I-C-K, Armey, A-R-M-E-Y, and Matt, M-A-T-T, Kibbe, K-I-B-B-E. And Matt Kibbe and Dick Armey are leaders of Freedom Works. I have met them personally. They're really, really nice guys. And what they wrote on the inside of this was, and I quote, "United by a strong belief in limited government and individual liberty, Tea Party members are changing the American political landscape. Unlike mainstream media accounts that observe the Tea Party movement, and Give Us Liberty chronicles the roots and rise of a new breed of taxpayer activism and the voices of those that were there. So, folks, the Tea Party is not dead, not by any means, so don't think it is." The other book that I got, and I'm reading right now about a third of the way through, for those of you that do watch Fox, even though I'm considering that, they basically have to play along in many ways to get along to keep their license, but they are more conservative than all the rest up there, besides Newsmax and America One, which is a new one that came out on TV. Wake Up America is by Eric Bolling. Now, those of you who remember Eric Bolling, he's part of The Five. He's the co-host of The Five, or when they do The Five Outnumbered on Fox News. Nice, good-looking young gentleman. You'll see on the front of the book, he's there with his business jacket and wearing the American flag on his lapel. And he wrote this book, and it's entitled Wake Up America. I got it for $18 at the store. And it says the 9 virtues that made our nation great and why we need them more than ever. Again, Wake Up America by Eric Bolling, B-O-L-L-I-N-G. Upon reading this book, I found where he wrote in here, he said, grit, merit, providence, individualism, and thrift. And above all, pride in our country. These qualities, among others, are the reasons that hundreds of millions of people worldwide look to America for hope, inspiration, and opportunity. But it is precisely these virtues that are now under attack by the radical left of Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, and their followers. America as we know it is eroding before our eyes and becoming what Fox News Channel personality and co-host The Five, Eric Bolling, calls a politically correct nanny state. The rewards for individual achievement and hard work, our basic constitutional rights, religious faith, national identity, and capitalism itself are being replaced by a dangerous socialistic ideology that is the popular, polar opposite of what our founding fathers intended America to be. Wake Up America identifies the 9 core virtues of our nation and demonstrates why each one is so important to our history and our future. It's time for us to wake up and heed the clear-cut warning signs that America is heading in the wrong direction before we've gone too far. The celebration of America, folks, that is informed by Eric Bolling's inspirational personal story in Wake Up America is an urgent call to arms for American citizens to preserve makes us great. Eric, Chicago native, and as you all know, you can see him on the Fox News channel. I encourage you to go out and get his book, Wake Up America, again by Eric, E-R-I-C, Bolling, B-O-L-L-I-N-G. Now, as we're coming near the end of the show, folks, I found a really neat book. It's a beautiful front cover with a little boy in a cowboy hat carrying the American flag, and it's called Chicken Soup for the Soul. I was able to pick this up for $9.97. The Spirit of America, 101 stories about what makes our country great. Again, Chicken Soup for the Soul, titled The Spirit of America, by Amy Newmark and forwarded by Lee Woodruff. The royalties from this book are benefiting the Bob Woodruff Foundation, which is Stand Up for a Hero program for veterans. So what I'm going to do, folks, in here, is I'm going to start off every once in a while, I'm going to be reading something out of it. And I'm going to start off with the very first one. From time to time on my show, I'm going to read something from this book. I'm going to start off with Flying the Perfect Flag. Every Heart Beats True Beneath the Red, White, and Blue by George M. Cohan. And the story in here goes as thus. Quote, I'm ashamed to fly this flag, I told my husband. It's faded and frayed. It's time to retire it. He agreed. The worn-out flag had flown in front of our house every day for years. We displayed the stars and stripes because we love our country, because my dad, my husband, and 3 of my brothers served in the military, and because one of those brothers died in the mountains of North Vietnam. Quote, I'll just run out and buy another flag, I told my husband. Little did I know that I was beginning of a long and frustrating hunt for the perfect replacement. I had a list of requirements for our new flag. None of the ones I saw measured up. Some were too flimsy. I knew they wouldn't fly gracefully in the wind. Others were cheaply made. I knew they wouldn't make it through one hot Southern California summer before they faded. And I wanted an American flag that was actually made in America. I'd been looking for a flag for weeks, and I was getting desperate. So I visited all the nearby stores without finding one that pleased me. So I drove a few extra miles to a shop that specialized in them. Most of their flags were ones that marked the seasons with pictures of Bunny or Santa Claus, or invited you to come in and whine a bit. Even their most expensive American flags didn't meet my high standards. I thought about it, but I wanted to rub the material between my fingers first. Was I becoming obsessive? My search ended in my local warehouse store a few weeks before the 4th of July. A display of American flags caught my eye. They were made of heavy material, each star and stripe individually sewn. The fabric felt crisp, thick, and heavy in my hands. A gleaming flagpole that we could attach to our front porch railing was included, and right on the label was a notice, certified, made in the USA. I put the flag in my cart immediately and headed for the cash register. It seemed as if everyone had decided to check out at once. The carts were piled up as if there had been an accident at the shopping cart freeway. It was hot, and it sounded as if every child in the building had decided to have a meltdown at the same time. It will take me forever to get out of here, I thought. My head and my back ached as I leaned on my cart. I considered putting the flag back and going home, but I finally found one that I ought to quit now. Let me pay for that, said a man. Are you talking to me? I responded. Yes, I'd like to buy that flag for you. Oh, I can pay for it myself, I said. No, let me, please. I said no. On here, did I look as if I couldn't pay for my own flag? Was this some sort of clever way for a total stranger to get my credit card number? If he paid for my flag, would he hit me up for a favor? I was boxed in by all the shopping carts, and I couldn't get away from him. Should I call security? It just makes me happy to see someone flying the flag, he said. And then I had a hunch. Are you a veteran, I asked. Yes. My name is Brian, and I was in the first Iraq War. Tears came to his eyes. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago, but it's still hard. That's my family over there on that checkout line. Shame washed over me. When had I become so suspicious and distrustful? I realized it was easy for me to give. but I didn't want to receive. I didn't want anyone to think that I needed anything. There was an icy block of pride where my heart should have been. I gave Brian a hug, and I whispered in his ear, quote, I lost a brother in Vietnam. I will pray that God heals any pain that you may still carry. And yes, I'd be honored to fly a flag that you bought for me. Brian smiled, hugged me back with his own credit card, and left with his family. The gift given to me by one of our country's heroes flies from my front porch as I write this. The stars and stripes gleam in the sunlight, and the flag floats in the air in the slightest breath of wind. It is indeed the perfect flag. Signed, Josephine Fitzpatrick of Southern California. So, folks, with that, I hope you had a happy 4th of July yesterday. God bless you. This is Maggie Rose. And tomorrow we'll have Cy and Donna up with Ladies Roundtable here on the new Concord Hour. Again, tomorrow will be the Ladies Roundtable. It's Wednesday with Cy and Donna Hammond. And again, this is the new Concord Hour being brought to you by the Microeffect Radio Broadcast Network. Goodbye and good night. Till tomorrow.